One night, without warning, the moon vanished. The tides collapsed into chaos. The oceans surged like living beasts. Cities on the coasts drowned in hours. And above us, the sky turned wrong stars, shifting nights darker than ever before. For 4 billion years, the moon had been Earth's silent guardian. But in a single instant, its disappearance rewrote the laws of our world. It was not just the vanishing of a pale light in the sky. It was the unraveling of balance itself. Because the moon was more than a companion, it was the hidden architect of our nights, our seas, our seasons, and even of life itself. So what happens if the moon disappears, not just for days, not for years, but forever? When the moon vanishes, Earth does not simply lose a nightlight. It loses an anchor. For billions of years, our planet's delicate systems have been synchronized to that silent satellite, from the sway of the oceans to the tilt of the Earth itself. Without it, the very architecture of nature begins to collapse. The first shock comes from the tides. The moon's gravity pulls at our oceans, lifting waves that sweep across coastlines twice a day. Without that pull, the seas fall eerily still. At first, it seems calm, even gentle, as though the planet is exhaling, but soon chaos emerges. The sun also exerts gravity on the oceans, though much weaker, and without the moon to dominate the rhythm, the solar tide takes over. Instead of steady, predictable rises and falls, the oceans lurch in strange, erratic pulses. Some coastlines experience almost no tide at all, leaving harbors useless and exposing fragile marine life. Others suffer sudden, exaggerated surges when the sun, earth, and oceans align. For human civilization, the collapse of the tidal calendar devastates fishing, shipping, and coastal cities. But for marine creatures, the damage is worse. Countless species depend on tides to spawn, feed, and migrate. The oceans lose their heartbeat, and when the oceans falter, climate follows. The moon does not only stir the seas, it also steadies the Earth itself. Our planet tilts at an angle of about 23.5 degrees, creating the seasons. But the moon acts like a hand on the spinning top for preventing that tilt from wobbling wildly. Without it, Earth's axis drifts chaotically. Over centuries, the tilt might swing from 0 degrees to as much as 45 degrees. At 0, there are no seasons, only endless sameness. At 45, the seasons are brutal and extreme: summers where the poles roast under endless sunlight, winters where the equator drowns in darkness. Civilizations collapse not because of sudden catastrophe, but because the very rhythm of time becomes alien. Crops can no longer be planted with confidence. The skies and stars lose their calendar. And humans who have built empires around predictability face a planet that refuses to repeat itself. Even the air changes. Winds are sculpted by the temperature difference between oceans and land, and tides mix warm and cold waters into currents like the Gulf Stream. Remove the moon, and the great conveyor belts of the ocean slow. Tropical waters stagnate, polar waters grow colder, and the balance that keeps climates mild vanishes. Europe freezes, the tropics, bake storms rise with unfamiliar violence. The disappearance of the moon is not a single event, but a slow-motion unraveling of every natural system tied to balance. Yet the most haunting change may be in the night sky itself. Imagine standing under the stars after the moon's disappearance. The darkness is absolute. For millennia, humans have navigated, hunted, and dreamed by lunar light. Without it, the night becomes alien. Animals that evolved under moonlight lose their guide. Sea turtles, insects, and birds falter in their migrations. Predators that relied on dim light hunt in blindness, while others thrive in the new pitch black. Entire ecosystems fracture, reshaping the chain of life. And still, the danger deepens. The moon shields us more than we realize. Its gravity stabilizes the crust, taming tectonic activity. Without that tug, Earth's rotation grows unstable. The day shortens or lengthens unpredictably over eons. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions increase as the delicate balance of gravitational stress shifts. Imagine an Earth where not only the skies but the very ground beneath us is less trustworthy. Over millions of years, the consequences would echo into evolution itself. Life began in tidal pools stirred by the moon, where water rose and fell in rhythm, concentrating molecules until they fused into something greater. Without tides, perhaps life on Earth would never have emerged at all. And if the moon were gone tomorrow, evolution would once again be redirected. Species that once depended on the moon's rhythms would fade away, while new creatures adapted to eternal stillness and chaos would rise. Humans too would feel this transformation in their bones. Entire cultures grew from lunar cycles, from calendars carved in stone to myths of gods and monsters. Agriculture was timed to moonlight. Wars were waged by its glow lovers, wrote poems under its face. Without the moon, not only the physical world collapses, but the cultural one as well. The stories we told for millennia suddenly lose their source. A piece of human identity older than civilization is torn away. The strangest irony is that the moon itself was born from catastrophe. 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized planet collided with Earth, blasting rock into orbit. That debris gathered into the glowing sphere that became our companion. From that day onward, the moon shaped life, climate, and destiny. Without it, Earth is no longer Earth as we know it. It becomes something unfamiliar, a planet adrift, spinning on a crooked axis with dead seas, violent skies, and nights so dark that humanity itself might wonder if the sun will rise again. And as we stare into the emptiness where the moon once hung, we are forced to face a deeper question. What if the moon was never a passive companion? What if it was the secret architect of life itself? And by losing it, we have not only unmade our present but unstitched the very future of the human story. Scientists often remind us that if the moon vanished, the destruction would not be instantaneous. Earth would not suddenly rip apart, nor would oceans leap into the sky in one night. Instead, the horror would unfold in slow motion, hidden beneath years and decades like a fuse burning toward a distant explosion. And this slow unraveling may be more terrifying than any sudden catastrophe. The first years might even seem deceptively normal. Days and nights would pass, the sun would still rise, the stars would still shine. Humanity, resilient and stubborn, might believe nothing truly changed. But under the surface, the absence of the moon would be rewriting the blueprint of life. The tides, weakened and erratic, would begin killing silently. Coastal ecosystems depend on predictable cycles of flooding and retreat. Mangrove forests, salt marshes, coral reefs all breathe in time with the moon. Remove that rhythm and their lungs collapse. Without tides to cleanse the coasts, stagnant waters turn poisonous. Algae blooms choke fish nurseries, oxygen levels plummet, and entire food chains begin to rot. Within decades, billions of people who rely on the ocean for food face starvation. But food shortages are only the beginning. The wobble of Earth's axis, once stabilized by the moon, begins to tilt. Farmers in temperate zones discover that seasons shift unpredictably. Summers stretch into decades of blistering drought, then collapse into generations of bitter cold. A civilization might survive one failed harvest, but not centuries of chaos. Nations crumble not under enemy fire, but under the weight of a climate that refuses to be trusted. As days shorten over millennia, another threat emerges. Earth's rotation speeds up slightly without the moon's drag. Days shave off seconds, then minutes, then hours. The change is too slow to notice at first, but nature feels it. Faster spin means stronger windstorms with more energy, hurricanes that span continents. The skies transform into arenas of chaos where cyclones battle across oceans without end. For humans, survival becomes a lottery of geography, safe in some pockets, obliterated in others. Yet the strangest consequences are cultural. For tens of thousands of years, the moon was humanity's clock. Entire calendars were carved by its cycles. Rituals, agriculture, mythology, all tied to its glow. Without it, a psychic wound opens. Generations grow up under a night sky that feels empty, as though something essential has been stolen. Lovers no longer whisper under moonlight. Poets lose their eternal muse. Priests and shamans who once read destiny in lunar phases face silence in the heavens. Even if humanity adapts physically, the soul of civilization withers. And then comes the cosmic irony. The disappearance of the moon may not simply destabilize Earth. It could invite destruction from beyond. The moon is more than light and tides. It is also a shield. Its gravity absorbs and deflects asteroids, protecting Earth from countless collisions. Without it, Earth is exposed. For billions of years, the moon has carried the scars of impacts that might otherwise have ended us. Now, those impacts would fall directly on Earth. Each meteor storm, each wandering rock from the asteroid belt now has a clearer path to strike. The odds of extinction rise with every year the moon is gone. In this scenario, humanity is forced to live not only against Earth's betrayal, but against the silent bombardment of space. Cities might be reduced overnight, civilizations undone not by time but by fire from the heavens. For the first time since our ancestors walked upright, we would know what it feels like to live without the moon's protection. And yet the most chilling truth of all is this: without the moon, Earth's entire evolutionary path would have been different. Life itself may never have formed. Scientists believe the moon's tides created the shallow pools where organic molecules first concentrated and combined billions of years ago. If the moon vanished today, it would not just change our future, it would remind us that we owe our very existence to it. Without the moon, there may never have been oceans full of life forests, full of animals or humans gazing up at the stars. The hypothesis then is grim. The moon disappears and Earth begins to unravel. The seas die first, then the climates, then the cultures, then perhaps humanity itself. And in the void left behind, evolution takes another path. A path without us. But nature never leaves a vacuum for long. When balance collapses, new life always rises to claim the empty throne. And on this moonless Earth, the stage is set for creatures unlike any the world has ever seen. When Earth loses the moon, it loses its guide. But nature abhors emptiness. In the silence left behind, life bends, mutates, and reshapes itself to fit the strange new rhythms of a planet without tides, without stability, without moonlight. What emerges is not a barren Earth, but a world of unfamiliar wonders, a bestiary born of chaos. In the deep forests where moonlight once filtered through branches, creatures of light evolved to replace it. Herds of colossal elk roam the night, their antlers threaded with bioluminescent veins. These giants, called shadow elk, glow faintly blue like living constellations drifting through the trees. Their antlers are not only weapons, but signals flashing coded pulses to warn of predators or to attract mates. In the absence of lunar light, communication becomes a matter of survival, and light itself becomes a language. Beneath the surface, where the ground trembles with shifting seasons, and storms, mammoth descendants adapt by burrowing. They are not the woolly titans of prehistory, but burrow mammoths, colossal creatures that carve entire labyrinths beneath plains and riverbeds. Their tunnels redirect water collapse forests and create vast underground chambers. To humans, these networks become both sanctuary and death trap, offering shelter during violent storms but threatening collapse at any moment. The burrow mammoths move unseen, but their presence reshapes landscapes like living tectonic plates. On the open plains, armored behemoths rise. They are called stonebacks, massive herbivores with skeletal plates fused into living fortresses. Their hides absorb heat during the erratic summers and shield them during the bitter ice-bound winters. When threatened, herds of stonebacks lock together, forming impenetrable walls of bone and flesh. To predators, they are not prey, but citadels. Entire ecosystems grow in the shelter of their migrations, birds nesting in their ridges, insects feeding on their armored hides. The stonebacks march slowly, yet with every step they reshape the ecosystems they pass through. In the swamps, amphibians mutate into colonies. Fungal frogs, small in size but countless in number, develop symbiotic mosses and glowing fungi on their skin. Each frog is part of a larger organism, a living swamp that breathes, sings, and defends itself as one. When threatened, hundreds leap in unison, creating waves of toxic spores that suffocate attackers. The swamp itself becomes alive, pulsing like a single entity, adapting against any predator that dares to intrude. And then there are the titans of the plains, thunder beasts. Descended from ancient ungulates, they grow 6 legs, their crystalline hides refracting starlight into shimmering rainbows. At night, when they stampede, they appear as rivers of light flowing across the horizon. Each step sends shockwaves through the earth, disorienting predators and shaping the very soil into new patterns. Farmers in a moonless Earth would tell stories of nights when the ground itself thundered with the march of glowing giants, turning fields into wastelands in hours. In the oceans, too, new rulers emerge. With tides weakened, many species collapse, but others rise. Leviathan jellies stretch their translucent bodies across kilometers, glowing softly in the eternal dark. They trap entire schools of fish in living nets, drifting silently as if the ocean itself has become one colossal creature. Around them swarm smaller symbionts, fish crabs, even human survivors using their light as a beacon in the abyss. The absence of the moon not only forces adaptation, but invents beauty. The night sky may be darker, but the earth itself glows with new light antlers, shimmering in forests, shells sparkling on plains, herds radiating like stars, and oceans pulsing with giant glowing veils. Life has found its own moonlight etched into its bones and skin. Yet beauty is only one side of survival. These creatures are not passive miracles. They are fighters, shaped by brutality, by storms, by famine. In the moonless earth, only those that adapt in radical ways endure. Light becomes weapon armor, becomes fortress, and entire species merge into collective organisms to withstand a planet without balance. For humanity, these creatures are both wonder and threat. To see a herd of thunder beasts stampeding beneath the stars would inspire awe, but to live in their path would mean certain death. To find shelter in the tunnels of burrow mammoths might save lives during a storm. But when those giants move, entire villages collapse. The world is no longer ours. It belongs to them. The gallery of creatures is a reminder that life does not need the moon to endure. It only needs chaos. And from chaos, it invents forms beyond our imagination. These are not simply animals. They are answers to a question we were never meant to ask. But if these are the new herds, the new pillars of life, then what monsters rise to hunt them? Because in every ecosystem, light invites shadow. And in the moonless earth, predators evolve into nightmares. Where prey glows, predators sharpen their shadows. In the absence of the moon, the night itself becomes a weapon. Among the forests of bioluminescent elk and the stampeding thunder beasts, a new ruler emerges, not the largest, not the loudest, but the deadliest. It begins with silence. Entire herds vanish overnight, not with screams or chaos, but with absence. Villages wake to find their livestock gone, their fields trampled, their watchfires extinguished. At first, survivors blame storms, or perhaps the thunder beasts. But patterns emerge. The bodies are never found. Only shadows remain. The creature is called the night maw. Its form is rarely seen, but whispered descriptions from the few who escape paint a horror, both alien and familiar. A predator the size of a whale, yet moving like a panther. Its body is cloaked in skin so black it swallows starlight, rendering it invisible against the void of night. Only its eyes betray it, twin orbs of pale white glowing faintly like dead moons. When they appear in the dark, it is already too late. The night maw is not a hunter of opportunity. It is an architect of fear. Unlike other predators, it does not chase, it waits. Using the instability of Earth's new seasons, it stalks migration routes, anticipating where prey must pass. Shadow elk, stonebacks. Even the colossal thunder beasts all eventually walk into its path. The maw's jaws dislocate, opening wider than physics should allow, unhinging into a cavern lined with teeth that glimmer faintly with phosphorescent bacteria. Herds see the glow and mistake it for safety, another form of bioluminescence in the dark. But as they draw near, the light is revealed for what it is, a lure into the abyss. Its strike is beyond speed. With muscles wound like coiled steel, it launches from stillness into devastation. Entire stonebacks are dragged down in minutes, their armored shells cracking like pottery. The maw does not roar. It does not announce itself. It devours, swallows, and disappears, leaving nothing but trembling silence in its wake. But what makes it the apex predator is not only its body, but its mind. The night maw hunts with strategy. It scatters herds, separates mothers from young, drives prey into swamps where fungal frogs finish the kill. It uses thunderwind, even the Earth's unstable tilt, to its advantage. Witnesses claim it can mimic sounds, the call of shadow elk, the cries of human children. Whether this is biology or myth hardly matters. In a moonless Earth, myth and reality blur. Humans, fragile and desperate, quickly learn that the maw is more than predator. It is terror incarnate. Camps move constantly. Torches burn through the night, yet still the maw comes. Spears break against its hide walls, crumble before its weight. Survivors describe its presence as suffocating. The air grows heavy, the stars dim, the world itself seems to lean toward its hunger. Some whisper that the maw is not merely an animal, but the Earth's answer to imbalance, a living shadow birthed from the absence of the moon. What makes the night maw most terrifying is its patience. It does not slaughter indiscriminately. It stalks, it waits, it tests defenses and learns them. Over weeks it returns again and again, probing until it finds weakness. By the time prey understands it is being hunted, the hunt has already ended. In human legend, it becomes the first true monster of the moonless Earth. Tribes carve its pale eyes into stone, warning others of cursed grounds. Songs are whispered to children: do not follow the light in the night. Do not listen when the dark calls your name. But stories are no shield. The maw is real. And yet for all its horror, the night maw has a role. Its reign prunes the ecosystem, preventing the glow herds and armored giants from overrunning the planet. Without it, chaos would collapse the fragile balance of this new world. It is the sculptor of survival, the razor edge that carves order from madness. To witness the night maw is to know the truth in a world without the moon. Darkness itself becomes alive. And though humans cling to fire and stories, nothing we create is brighter than its hunger. After the night maw reveals itself, the world does not fall silent. Instead, it reshapes. For every predator that dominates prey must adapt, and in the moonless earth, the herbivores do not surrender, they evolve. The shadow elk, once gentle giants glowing faintly in forests, begin to grow in size and ferocity. Their antlers, once just delicate light signals, become sprawling forests of bone and light stretching 3 meters across, tipped with razor edges. No longer do they run at the first scent of danger. When threatened, entire herds gather in circles, their antlers flaring in synchronized pulses. The glow blinds attackers and disorients predators that rely on shadow. The night maw itself has been wounded by these defensive scars, traced along its flank like rivers of pale fire. The stonebacks also adapt. Once slow-moving fortresses, they develop migration strategies akin to armies. Their herds swell into the thousands, each individual locking together in a wall of plates that moves across the land like a fortress on legs. Within the center of these formations, younger stonebacks graze in safety while the outer ring bristles with bone and horn. Predators who strike find themselves facing not prey, but an entire mobile citadel capable of crushing anything caught beneath its march. Smaller creatures from birds to mammals nest within this formation, protected by the stoneback wall. In this way, the stonebacks become not just animals, but living ecosystems, the keystones upon which countless other species depend. Plants, too, transform. Without the stabilizing influence of the moon's tides, weather becomes violent and erratic. To survive, forests evolve new strategies. Towering nightbloom trees unfurl enormous bioluminescent flowers that glow in shifting colors, drawing pollinators from miles away. Some glow blue to mimic shadow elk antlers, some pulse red to attract insect swarms, and others flash white as warning beacons. Over centuries, forests turn into living galaxies of light ecosystems where survival is written in luminescence. But beauty masks brutality. Many of these trees are carnivorous, their blossoms luring unwary herbivores into traps of sticky resin and crushing roots. In the moonless earth, even plants become predators. On the plains, grass itself becomes weaponized. Endless meadows of razor grass spread in regions plagued by storms. The blades grow taller than humans, sharp as knives, swaying in winds so strong they cut flesh. Herds of stonebacks and shadow elk trample paths through them, but smaller creatures are shredded alive if they wander off. The razor grass fields are both sanctuary and graveyard, forcing migration routes into narrow, predictable corridors, the very paths where predators like the night maw wait. Meanwhile, the oceans, once dying, now reinventing themselves, generate new life forms. Without strong tides, many fish vanish, but in their place rise colossal filter feeders called bloom whales. These titans drift through seas, opening maws lined not with baleen but with luminous tendrils that sweep plankton and small creatures into their gullets. Around them swarm smaller symbiotic fish feeding on scraps, while predators circle the edges, daring not to strike too close to the glowing behemoth. When bloom whales surface, their bodies erupt with sprays of bioluminescent water, creating geysers of blue light visible for miles, living lighthouses in oceans stripped of lunar guidance. Yet perhaps the most remarkable adaptation is social. Herbivores once solitary or loosely organized now build alliances. Shadow elk graze near stonebacks knowing the armored wall can shield them. Smaller grazers like glass-horned deer, sleek crystalline creatures whose horns scatter starlight, hide in the glowing forests of their larger cousins. Even humans, fragile and desperate, begin to follow these herds, treating them as moving fortresses against predators. The moonless earth becomes a land where survival is collective, where ecosystems form networks tighter than any before. But balance is fragile. The stronger the herbivores grow, the more monstrous the predators that evolve to hunt them. Flocks of sky razors, bird-like reptiles with wingspans of 12 meters evolve to dive into herds from above, slashing with talons before retreating to the clouds. Swarms of carrion insects trail the stonebacks, feeding on the wounds predators leave behind. The ecosystem becomes an arms race, each adaptation answered by another. And still, there is one constant humanity caught in between. To survive, humans learn to shadow the great herds, to hide among the stonebacks, to harvest glowing plants as both food and weapon. Entire tribes are defined by the creatures they follow. Elk people, stoneback nomads, swamp dwellers who live among the fungal frogs. In myths whispered by firelight, each creature becomes a god, each herd a moving temple. Humanity is no longer master of Earth, but a parasite clinging to the backs of greater survivors. The moonless Earth is alive not in spite of the catastrophe, but because of it. Evolution is no longer slow and subtle. It is violent, immediate, sculpted by storms and predators, disasters and darkness. Each species, herbivore, plant, predator, even human, is forged sharper, stranger, more luminous. The world itself becomes a vast experiment, a reminder that life will not vanish with the moon. It will transform. And as herds thunder across glowing plains, forests breathe with light, and oceans erupt in alien brilliance, one truth becomes clear. The moon was never the sole architect of life. Chaos itself was. And in chaos, life flourishes, even if it must tear itself apart to do so. When the moon disappears, Earth is no longer just a planet in chaos. It becomes a mirror, reflecting what worlds without moons have always endured. For the first time, we are forced to ask, is the moon what made Earth special? Or is the moon what kept Earth alive? Look to Mars. The red planet circles the sun with only two tiny companions, Phobos and Deimos, little more than captured asteroids. They tug at Mars, but weakly, never enough to shape tides or stabilize its spin. The result is a planet defined by instability. Mars' axis wobbles chaotically, its climate swinging violently over eons. Sometimes poles grow forests of ice, sometimes deserts spread to cover all. Without a strong moon, Mars could never hold on to the balance Earth enjoyed. Without a strong moon, Mars became a graveyard. Then look to Venus, a planet of perpetual clouds. Its rotation barely moves its days, stretching longer than its years. Venus has no moon at all, no anchor to tug against its tides, no companion to keep its spin in rhythm. The result is suffocation. Its atmosphere is a tomb of carbon dioxide, its surface hotter than ovens, its winds shredding anything that dares to endure. Some scientists believe that if Venus had a moon, its history might have been different. Perhaps stable seasons, perhaps oceans, perhaps life. Without it, Venus became the warning Earth never heeded. Even Mercury tells the story. Closest to the sun, it spins without a moon to break or balance it. Its nights plunge into deadly cold, its days rise into searing heat. It is a world of extremes, locked in a tidal embrace with the sun itself, incapable of protecting any fragile spark of life. In contrast, Earth was never alone. From the moment of its violent birth, when a young Earth collided with a planet-sized body and the moon was born from fire, it had a guardian. The moon pulled at its oceans, spread nutrients through tidal pools, shaped climates, and stabilized the tilt of Earth's axis. While Venus baked and Mars froze, Earth thrived. Our moon was not an ornament in the sky. It was a shield, a regulator, a silent architect of everything we call home. Now imagine Earth stripped of this companion, and suddenly it looks less like the cradle of life and more like its barren neighbors. A moonless Earth begins to resemble Mars, unpredictable tilt, violent climate swings, oceans vanishing, civilizations collapsing. In time, perhaps it even becomes Venus, a suffocating hothouse wrapped in storm. Without the moon, Earth loses its identity. It ceases to be the anomaly and falls back into the pattern of dead worlds. But comparisons do more than terrify. They remind us of how rare we are. Across the solar system, dozens of moons exist. Europa, Titan, Ganymede, some hiding oceans, some holding atmospheres. Yet no moon has played its role as Earth's has. No other planet enjoys the same delicate balance of ocean, sky, and life. If the moon vanished, Earth would prove the rule that stability is rare and chaos is the universe's default state. And then there are the stars beyond. Astronomers searching exoplanets often look for super-Earths in habitable zones, rocky planets bathed in starlight. But many warn without large moons, those planets may never host life. Their climates may tilt and collapse like Mars. Their oceans may stagnate like Venus. Their skies may rage endlessly with storm. The moon is not just part of Earth's story, it may be the ingredient that separates a living world from a lifeless one. So when we imagine Earth without the moon, we are not just imagining catastrophe. We are imagining what Earth could have been all along: ordinary, dead, forgettable. The moon did not simply light our nights, it made us possible. Global comparison, then, is more than science. It is perspective. It tells us that we live in a universe where most worlds are hostile, where stability is fragile, where chaos is the default. And in that universe, our moon was the accident that gave Earth a chance. To lose it is to lose the miracle itself. And so Earth without the moon is not just an apocalypse, it is a lesson. A reminder written in stars and stone that every night we gazed upward, we were not looking at a distant rock. We were looking at the reason we exist at all. The moon has always been there, hanging above us like a lantern in the dark, shaping tides, guiding migrations, pulling oceans, and anchoring the rhythm of our world. We rarely think about it because it has never left us, but in imagining its disappearance, we are forced to see what it always was: not decoration, not background, but the silent foundation of life itself. Without it, the seas rise and collapse, storms swallow coastlines, predators and prey twist into monstrous new forms. Ecosystems rebuild themselves from fire and darkness. Humanity is reduced to shadows clinging to the herds of giants, no longer the masters of Earth, but mere participants in the struggle to endure. In that world, every night is a reminder the sky is empty, the guardian is gone. And yet, there is something hauntingly beautiful about this vision. The forests glowing with living constellations, oceans breathing with titanic luminous whales, plains thunderous with herds that move like armies. It is terrifying, yes, but it is also proof of something deeper: that life does not give up. It adapts, it resists, it reinvents itself even when stripped of the very balance that once sustained it. The moon was our protector, but chaos can also be a creator. Still, the question lingers: if the moon is what gave us our chance, how fragile is that chance now? For billions of years, the moon has kept us stable. But the universe is not gentle. Collisions happen, stars die, worlds shift. Even our moon will not last forever. One day, billions of years from now, it will drift away from Earth inch by inch until its influence weakens and its light fades. We live in a borrowed miracle, and like all miracles, it has an end. So what do we do with that knowledge? Do we fear it, or do we honor it? Every time you look up and see the moon, know that you are staring at the reason Earth is alive, and not just another silent world like Mars, Venus, or Mercury. Know that every wave on a beach, every season, every tide pool that sparked the first spark of life was written by its gravity. And know that in the vast silence of the cosmos, very few worlds are lucky enough to have what we have. Perhaps that is why we tell stories of wolves howling at the moon, of lovers separated by its glow, of gods who placed it in the heavens as a gift. Deep down, humanity has always understood its importance, even when we lacked the science to explain it. We knew it was not just rock and dust, we knew it was ours. So here's the question I leave you with. What if one night you looked up and it was gone? Would you miss the light? Or would you miss the miracle it represented? The moon is still here, for now. So go outside tonight, look up, remember how rare this is, and if you want to keep exploring the fragile threads that make our world possible, the accidents, the catastrophes, the miracles hidden in plain sight, then stay with us. Because the story of Earth, the story of life, the story of survival, it has only just begun. What if the moon disappeared? You've seen the nightmare, but what if we disappear before it does?